begin the talk by asking you all to take a deep breath with me. Deep breath in, hold it, and let it out. I want you to think of something you really wanted, like really, really wanted. The one that you gave up on before you ever seriously tried. Maybe it's an email that reminds 10 times you never sent. Maybe it's a project you gave up on halfway through because someone told you it wasn't worth it. Most of us have a graveyard of these, and we like to assign them really pretty names, with labels like we're being strategic, we're being patient, or we're being realistic. But underneath, if we're really honest with ourselves, is usually one thing: fear. Fear of being embarrassed, fear of being wrong, fear of wanting something so badly but still coming up short. Most of us think of courage as something you feel before you act. That brave people just don't feel fear in the way the rest of us do. But neuroscience has a different story. So, in freshman year of college, I became obsessed with women's health research, one of the most chronically underfunded areas in medicine. And it just so happens that a leading research lab at MIT had just raised $10 million in funding. So, what did I do? I read every paper they'd ever published, drafted an email to the principal investigator, and sent it. Weeks went by, and as expected, I heard nothing. But hear me on this. I really wanted this. So the next thing that made sense to me, I street dealer was up to my high school scholarship, and I booked a flight to Boston. He was giving a public talk there, at the media lab. And it was public talk, it wasn't quite what I expected. I found myself in the back of a lecture hall full of people who had every reason to be there. Startup founders, researchers, people with these special badges. And what did I have? I had a suitcase in one hand, a thank you note in the other, and this nauseous feeling in my stomach I couldn't quite diagnose. And when the talk finished, with my legs still shaking, I ran through the crowd and I handed her the note. And then the crowd swallowed me whole. One moment, I was standing in front of her, handing her the note, and the next, I was just another person in a sea of people, not knowing what I had done was brave or bizarre or both. It turns out, fear is not something that we really overcome. It's something we learn to live with. In 2010, researchers at the Weizmann Institute wanted to study something that science had mostly overlooked: courage, and what actually happens in the brain when one acts in spite of being afraid. So they found people who were terrified of snakes and put them in an fMRI scanner. Meanwhile, on the conveyor belt, there's a live snake, and they gave every participant two choices. One button that would bring the snake closer to their heads, and another that would push the snake away. In addition, they measured for two more metrics, one being the reported level of fear, and the second, the physiological arousal through sweat. Those who succumbed showed high levels of fear in both of these channels at once. But those who pushed on weren't exactly calm either. In fact, the reported level of fear was statistically the same as those who succumbed. So then, what made the difference? One region in the brain carries that difference. It's called the subgenual anterior cingulate cortex, which became active specifically when participants advanced despite their fears. And its activity rose in proportion to how afraid they were in that moment. So, courage, it turns out, isn't the absence of fear. It's part of the brain working the hardest when fear is at its peak. So remember that breath I asked you to take earlier? Well, I'll be honest, that wasn't really for you, that was so much more for me. So I found out this talk a little over a week ago, and I've been terrified ever since. And well, I didn't want to be up here and scared alone, so I wanted you guys to be here and be brave with me together. Slow, focused breathing, it turns out, is one of the most studied ways to calm the body and focus the mind. So while I calmed myself down, I focused all of you. A few hours after that initial interaction, with an unexpected mutual connection, I was brought back in contact with the PI. She heard what I was working towards, and after a 30-minute conversation, she decided to take me as a mentee for the following semester. I was in tears. This is something I've been longing for years, but it was all suddenly given to me. And what a story too, right? Girl emails a stranger, hops on a flight, gets a mentorship, and changes himself forever. But that's not what happened. These are limitations, university requirements, bureaucratic structures that had nothing to do with my capability or my work ethic. My mentorship fell through, not because of my ability, but because the system wasn't built for a situation like mine. And that was just the first wall. Randy Pauschman said, the brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want them. I used to feel something nice to say, but standing in front of my first wall, it hit differently. So, if there's anything I want to take away from this talk, there are 3 things I want you to keep in mind. First, you have to make the first move yourself. No one has an obligation to help you. Even if it means taking the path of greatest resistance or finding yourself in a room you didn't belong in, take that shot. It never gets less scary. The Weizmann researchers didn't find a single brain that was less afraid. They just found ones that acknowledged the fear but went for it anyway. Sometimes what you want changes, and that's okay too. The lab you're at, the field you're in, the goals you have, those are never the point anyway. The real point is who you become in the process of reaching. It's the doors that slam in your face, the deliberate attempt to pick yourself up from the shambles. It's the out-of-control tears that come streaming down your face. That's what shapes you. So, if there's something you've been standing in front of, just take that breath. And remember, courage was never the getting. It was the choosing to want anyway. Thank you.